From there, when the Korean War ended, he was, again, highly decorated. Korean War ended, did time in a bunch of different units in between the Korean War and the Vietnam War. When the Vietnam War kicked off, he went right into the thick of it again. Ended up as a battalion commander in Vietnam. And here's his list of awards. 2 Distinguished Service Crosses, 10 Silver Stars, 4 Legions of Merit, Distinguished Flying Cross, 8 Bronze Stars, 8 Purple Hearts. So you have a guy here that is obviously a highly dedicated soldier. Mm-hmm. A guy that would do anything for the Army and for America. Mm-hmm. But, and this is a big but, this guy was a rebel. He was a true rebel, and he went out and went against his officers. He went against the way the Army was running the war in Vietnam, and eventually he went out in public on national television and spoke out against the Vietnam War and said that we should not fight there anymore. Mm. So he went on this TV program. It's called Issues and Answers. It was a big show in the 70s, and he did this interview. And again, you got to remember, this guy is an active duty, highly decorated senior officer in the Army. I mean, this guy is by all counts, should be the most dedicated. Mm-hmm. And here he is, and this is what he says. This is one of the quotes from this interview. I think that the top managers of the Army, and there's a big difference between a leader, a combat leader, and a manager. The top managers were so involved in systems analysis, in the normal bureaucracy of it all, they were fighting from day to day just to move paper that crossed their desk, and they couldn't see the forest for the trees. In February, when we went into Laos conventionally. The idea was to block the enemy's supply routes, so we dropped in there. We paid the Vietnamese paid a horrible price. Tremendous mistakes were made. Again, conventional thinking. He hounds on this a lot, this idea of conventional thinking. And again, you got a guy that's institutionalized. I mean, the guy's been in military service since he was 14 years old. Mm-hmm. You'd think that they would have him mentally sedated to a point where he would just think what they tell him to think. Mm-hmm. But he does not. Mm-hmm. That's the dichotomy of this guy. Again, conventional thinking. Conventional thinking put us in that operation rather than have a light, mobile guerrilla force, but a guerrilla force that belonged to the government of Vietnam, or an American army operating in there like guerrillas. So he was saying the Vietnamese should be doing this. The South Vietnamese army should be doing this. Or if we're going to do it, we need to operate like guerrillas. It takes a thief to catch a thief. What we need is a thief. We don't need a conventionally trained FBI agent dashing through the woods with a large force behind him. We need small people, well-trained, highly motivated, and this is what we have not had. Because what we have now, and this is where you say to yourself, wow, because what we have now among the Army is a bunch of shallow dilettantes who run from pillar to post trying to punch their card, serving minimum time at company level because the exposure. You are very close to the heat of the furnace there, meaning you can get in trouble easily. So he is on national television, a colonel in the Army, one of the most highly decorated individuals at the time, and he says the Army is filled with a bunch of shallow dilettantes who run from pillar to post trying to punch their card and purposely avoiding combat is what that second piece means. You don't see this kind of behavior from Army officers very often. I will tell you that. And here's kind of how he closed it out. She says, the interviewer says, Colonel, do you feel it's possible you have become too emotionally involved in Vietnam? Mm-hmm. And he says, I have become emotionally involved in Vietnam. One couldn't have spent the number of years I spent in Vietnam without becoming emotionally involved. One couldn't see the number of young studs die or be terribly wounded without becoming emotionally involved. I just have seen the American nation spend so much of its wonderful, great young men in this country. I have seen our national wealth being drained away. I see the nation being split apart and almost being split asunder because of this war. And I am wondering to what end it is all going to lead to.